3 months almost now, claiming that I am responsible for the political violence of this country. This guy was your guy. This guy was a major fan of you. He was retweeting all of your tweets. What do you say to that? He hated me. He hated me. He loved you and he hated me. What the do you have to say about that now? So let's look at another Fox News hit piece, and then we'll get into what the shooter's actual beliefs were.
So much when I hear that, and he's so not alone in this kind of rhetoric, is that it excuses away a violent, horrific crime, and also can inspire those who are unstable and ready to take action because they hear it as orders.
They hear it as orders, and I think that a lot of the folks that listen to that little waste of space twerp Hasan Piker, they don't understand that he's monetizing this, by the way. So he's saying these things that maybe he believes, maybe he doesn't, maybe he adds an extra layer of filth on it for a little more money. They're making money off of saying these disgusting things, right? And so he sits there in his little podcast mic, and to me, he's a worthless waste of space. However, the First Amendment protects his right to be a worthless waste of space. That's why it's incumbent upon parents now more than ever to know what, have honest discussions at home, make sure that they're not watching people like that and getting horrible ideas.
Little twerp is pretty funny. I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. Okay. There are not that many guys that look like me on the Republican side. Let's be real. Okay. Calling me a little twerp is very funny. Michael Fusco Art, thank you for the 50 bones. God damn. Is it 50? 67 bones. 67. Oh, God. I'm sorry.
Ideas in their head. I understand if you're 31 years old, your parents aren't going to have a lot of influence, but we need to have parents when kids are younger and most impressionable, making sure they know what their kids are consuming.
Yeah, and also there's this celebration culture over just the idea of something happening to the president and others in his administration.
And mockery.
And mockery. And Joey, there's this business you were going to tell us about in Wisconsin, kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, so on that topic, I mean, you saw the things that came out about Charlie Kirk and how people mocked his death. And then you look over at President Trump, who I guess is enemy number one for them. And that's the problem, is that's what they truly believe. Right. There's this guy's name is Kirk Bangstad. He owns a brewery in Wisconsin. It's called the Minocqua Brewing Company in Wisconsin. This is their tweet. It says, well, we almost got #Free Beer Day. Either a brother or sister in the resistance needs to work on their marksmanship, or he faked another to get a positive news cycle. We'll never know. Regardless, we stand at the ready to pour free beer the day it happens. Cheering for, hoping for, offering an incentive to kill the president of the United States. This isn't just a brewery owner. This guy is running or ran for the State Assembly District 34 against a Republican. He's also, there are videos of him laughing, cutting it up with his friend who is a leading Democrat for the Wisconsin gubernatorial race. So that's how deep this goes. I mean, just like with Hasan Piker, the difference with President Trump is when he has a Nick Fuentes come into Mar-a-Lago and somebody says, hey, this is who this really is, he tells him to get out. He doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, Donald Trump dined with Nick Fuentes, who's an actual neo-Nazi. I'm an open socialist. Okay, I don't think socialism and Nazism are even remotely on the same wavelength. There's no moral equivalence between the two. Okay, that's number one. Perhaps that's the reason why I don't shy away from saying my personal ideology. Okay, and he does. But the fact that he just brought this up makes it so like the fact that he brought this up on his own is so strange to me. He's like, well, you know, the president dined with the neo-Nazi. And he was criticizing it. It's like, yeah, of course I am, because I'm anti-Nazi. I don't think the Democrats should be anti-socialist or anti-communist. I think that's very idiotic.
They dangle the carrot of, oh, you can reach these people. President Trump has a hard line, and it's not to consort with people that do these types of things.
Well, don't forget 8647. You know, Cardinal Comey's discovery out on a beach.
Just a prior FBI director.
Yeah, just happened to be wandering down a beach and see something like that. Again, if you play footsie with these ideas, I think you nailed it. You never know how some people will receive that information. They may see someone joking about it, whether it's a podcaster or someone else making light of the fact that there have been these attempts, oh, they just barely missed him. Someone else might get out there and decide, well, I won't. And this is the real sickness that's engulfed our political discourse in this country. We've got to stop it, and stop it now, because I'm really concerned, not just while he's in office. This may continue even after he's out of office, and this is not what we want for our country, because it won't just be this president, it'll be the next and the next if we don't nip this in the bud now.
Yeah, and Tommy, one last thing. I'm so concerned about the putting these suspects on pedestals, and I'm concerned that's coming as well.
Yeah, for some dark corners of the
Blanche, Patel, and Perot are live.
Weekend, they held signs that read "Death to Tyrants." And then you have leftist influencer Hasan Piker. He remains popular among Democrats even as he faces backlash.
Wait.
Disregard the obvious.
Why can't I see the video?
Talk to O's, the man.
Wait, I don't know what you just linked me. Yeah, you linked me the wrong thing. But anyway, while we're waiting on that, here, let's take a look. This moron, another sex pestiny orbiter, is straight up lying on the timeline. Okay? Straight up lying on the timeline. The recent shooter was a Hasanoid, by the way. He hated Hasan. He was a fan of your circle. Why wouldn't you just own this revolutionary action against the bourgeoisie? Why are you straight up lying about this, says Andrew Mercado. I'm sorry, are you taking Ben Shapiro's side here? You're an R-worded communist. Don't appear under my tweets again. Straight up saying he'd rather be aligned with Ben Shapiro than someone like myself, okay? And I wasn't going to do this, okay? I wasn't going to unleash the faucet of true information about the shooter's background. But if there's anyone who this shooter had sympathies towards, it's you idiot. It's your ilk, okay? It's your radical centrist, pro-Israel Democrat ilk that this shooter was a major fan of. The classic Ukrainian flag in the bio slammed next to the Israeli flag in the bio type liberal that we've all seen on the timeline, many of which who have actually deleted at least the Israeli flag from their bios in shame, even though they still hold tremendous sympathy, okay? And guess what? I said, not only did the shooter retweet criticism of me claiming I was promoting antisocial behavior on his way to kill the president, he also was a major supporter of pro-Israel liberals who spent the last 2 months claiming I was fomenting violence, Lamau, which is, once again, 100% true. Look, Cold Force, red triangles may as well just write bot in their username. I refuse to believe they are all real, and that's stupid. He's talking about red triangle in the pro-resistance Twitter. Retweeting no opinion. The Palestine protesters are, functionally speaking, Republicans. Retweeting Elon A. Levy. Again, the spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry of Israel at the time of his retweeting. This fake report literally sparked riots. Irresponsible reporting costs lives. Retweeting Olivia Giuliana. It isn't inappropriate behavior. He's a rapist. He's a child rapist. Again, correct statement from Olivia Giuliana that's being retweeted by Cold Force. Retweeting Brianna Wu. My position on Gaza is nuanced. My position on what's happening to Jews at home is not. This is no different than the KKK. Talking about the pro-Palestinian cause, equating the pro-Palestinian cause to the Klan, okay? Do you feel like this guy was a fan of mine? Or do you feel like this guy is literally one of the people that was unironically claiming that I was fomenting revolutionary violence in this country for the past 3 months, or at least for the past 2 months? Guess what? We don't need to speculate because he literally did quote retweet someone saying I was a grifter who has no sincere beliefs, who just wants to promote antisocial behavior on his way to kill the president. So I know exactly who this guy is because I've been dealing with exactly this guy for the past 3 months. Retweet at Brianna Wu. America having the most lethal military on earth is why your superior Western values win and not a theocracy and autocracy. Retweeting Dylan Burns. Ukraine's breaking the Russian naval blockade is one of the least covered victories of the war. Okay, that one is fine. That's not that crazy. Sarah Longwell. What is this? Or what? I don't know what this is. This might be anti-Sarah Longwell, to be fair. I'm sorry, but I'm not just going to give up. Retweeting Troubleman90, another one of my ops. I'm sorry, but I'm not just going to give up the last 85 years of... Dude, I want editors to post the retweets that he's retweeting with posts of what these guys have said about me in the last 3 months. Okay? It took 1 second of me hearing this voice from a 2017 news hit to know that this guy was one of those like radical centrist liberals. Okay? I'm sorry, but I'm not going to give up on the last 85 years of civil rights and put my voting rights in jeopardy because 1% of the population of Michigan is upset over a decades-long conflict on the other side of the world that has nothing to do with me or my community. Yes, idiot, 1,000% yes. Simply voting would have saved this man. 6 conservatives on the Supreme Court refused to refuse to stop the execution or explicitly because y'all didn't vote. Harm reduction voter, maximum harm reduction voter. Adam Schiff barely beat his Republican opponent in the primary. I do not have confidence that he can win this seat in November. Therefore, I'm calling for Adam Schiff to step out of the race and allow party insiders to pick a new Senate nominee. Like, he was a massive Trouble Man 90 fan. What does Trouble Man 90 have to say? Virtually every single person that has been handshaking with the Republicans for the past 3 months almost now, claiming that I am responsible for the political violence of this country. This guy was your guy. This guy was a major fan of you. He was retweeting all of your tweets. What do you say to that? He hated me. He hated me. He loved you and he hated me. What the do you have to say about that now? Huh? Unlike you, on the other hand, I don't think you are the reason why he did this thing, okay? Because I'm not an asshole and I'm not an idiot. But it's unbelievable that there are still people out there trying to be like, oh, this guy was a Hasan fan, leaning into the fucking right-wing Republican propaganda. The growing chorus of Democrats raising questions about whether Trump won legitimately is now too big to simply ignore. Oh, he was saying, or what, to Sarah Longwell, saying, no, you should actually, because he was an election denier, okay? The guy, Cold Force. He was like literally blue anon. He was the guy I was making fun of early on. Yeah, Destiny's community is now saying the attempt is based since they can no longer claim he was one of yours. Yeah, because these guys don't give a shit about anything. They don't care about anything. They're not serious political actors. All they care about is doing Gamergate-style disparagement campaigns against one person, me. That's it. That's all they give a fuck about. I know it sounds insane, but that's all this is. It blows my fucking mind, but that's literally all it is. Retweeting Kraut, even Kraut. The guy that people keep saying gave himself, like castrated himself or something, and then blamed tankies. I don't even know what that means. I remember in 2017, everyone was just like, oh, he won't be that bad. I was one of them. And then he was even worse. I mean, he was fucking tapped into the centrist libtard Twitter. Like, he was tapped the fuck in. If you're retweeting random irrelevant former Nazi fucking now turned reactionary liberal content creators, if you're retweeting them, like, you're out of your fucking mind. You can make out the $1 million check to The Nation magazine. Thank you for your attention to this matter. A, this is a screenshot. B, do you understand this was back when I believed your side lies? Don't make me defend and own the things I've said. I don't defend this. I educated myself and changed my mind after October 7th. This tweet is from 2024. Please make the arrangements to send $1 million check to The Nation. Oh my God. Brianna Wu is unbelievably disingenuous and so fucking stupid. Election denier, but voting would have saved us. Castrate self with CBT, blame the tankies. That's what the Kraut guy does, right? I can't believe this guy's Reddit account was seemingly the most like boring one. Yeah. This is the guy he was retweeting. Okay? This is the guy he was fucking retweeting nonstop. Here's a video of Hasan saying Kamala and Trump are the exact same. Notice how passionate he is. You truly believe this deep in his heart evil. Yeah, on the issue of Gaza. Okay? Sucks to suck, but it's fucking true. Yes, Brianna Wu is so fucking stupid that she's trying to say that her tweet equating pro-Palestinian protesters, campus protesters of the Klan is actually a pro-Palestinian tweet. Like, think about how insane these people are. Think about how fucking insane these people are. One of their guys goes out and tries to assassinate the president, and they're like, yeah, this must still be the radical left. These liberals fully admit they only care about you. What is this? I've been pretty clear about what I think about Piker's rhetoric, and I have mentions to prove it, but I do have an important observation about Piker. He's not the president of the United States. He's a Twitch streamer 80% of Americans haven't heard of. It's not the same. 100% agree. The reason I talk so much about Hasan is because I can't change the evil shit Trump does, but I can bully Hasan Piker and make him sad. So I engage in the activity that allows me to have a quantifiable positive impact in the world. Dude, you have to have zero self-reflection if you thought that posting this would somehow make you look cool or good. That's unbelievable. This is the most pathetic tweet I've ever fucking read in my entire life. You just openly admitted that you obsess over me because you have no fucking power. You recognize your powerlessness with the hopes that it might actually make me sad. Why would it make me sad? I'd be mad as hell if I looked like a Faz baby too. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, he not only behaves like a toddler acting out, but he also looks like a toddler. But it's just, that's a crazy thing. It's not going to work, buddy. It's not going to work. You are not even remotely the most consequential hater that I have. They don't think it's loser shit to do this. 1K likes, they're just smelling each other's farts. Yeah, but that's not even reaching like any salience here. This is not reaching any prominence either. Also, yeah, when you look like this, when you behave like this, you can't really bully anybody. Why do you want to be a bully anyway? But I guess this is like, I guess this is your opportunity to try and bully someone on the internet. I don't know. It's very strange, but you know, I got bigger fish to fry here. I got fucking more consequential people to deal with, like the motherfucking entire Republican Party's media apparatus, or an entire country's propaganda apparatus, the country of Israel. Well, I guess the country of America too, let's be real. Republican media is literally fucking state media. So that does make sense. Like, you should use, to the liberals who come in here who are hate watching, like, please use all of the anger, angst, animosity you have towards more productive goals. Okay, goals that will help you out in the long run. Lean into political organizing. Go outside. Please, Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is funny. Julian from Dropsite says, okay, fine, the shooter didn't like Hasan, whose rhetoric thus couldn't have played any role in motivating the attacks. But why would Hasan say things that would make the shooter hate him? Will Hasan condemn himself for making the shooter more angry than he already was? Yeah. I can't, it's unbelievable that this guy, it comes out that this guy is like straight up a fucking radical centrist, pro no opinion, like Ukrainian flag, Israeli flag in the bio type guy. Okay. Why is there no community note for Benny? Oh, this? Yeah, I saw. That's a lie. But hey, if you curse a lot, maybe people won't notice that you promote stealing, murder, terrorism, and communism from your multi-million-dollar mansion while zapping your dog. Yeah, he got fucking ratioed into oblivion. He was butthurt. Ben Shapiro posted this over Bernie Sanders' tweet. So I said, a literal terrorist credited you for his radicalization, you fucking loser. Which is true. And then he went, you zap your dog. I think there's a bigger story here about how your haters, especially since October 7, have been feeding their audiences an ahistorical alternative universe that radicalizes them to them being brain-dead liberals like Cole Allen. Yeah. I was kind of surprised this morning, even the dude at work that would salute the flag with his hat over his heart, with a single tear rolling down his cheek, while Trump cucked his "you sir," thought the White House Correspondents' Dinner was staged. Yeah, of course. Good luck. Yeah, this guy... Evan responds, you'd rather ally with Ben Shapiro than a communist? Unironically, yes. Because unlike the people further to the right of Ben, like Jack Posobiec or Libs of TikTok or any of the ride or die Trump dick suck, Shapiro is not nearly as toxic as any communist or anarchist or tanky or left populist or whatever. That's it. He doesn't realize what he's admitting here, but this is not actually favorable. Okay? You will never be able to convince a Barbara or a Deborah of this reality. Okay? Go talk to any white suburbanite Barbara or Deborah over the age of 65 that's a lifelong Democratic Party voter or recent Democratic Party voter, that the Antifa guys, the guys that wear the black masks that go after neo-Nazis and whatnot, or the pro-Palestinian crowd are not their allies, but Ben Shapiro is, and watch their reaction. Those Barbaras and Deborahs will load up socks filled with batteries and beat you to death with it, okay? What the fuck are you talking about? These people unironically have real smoke for the Republican Party. The idea that you could just convince them that you have better allegiances with a goddamn fascist like Ben Shapiro, a pro-Israel fascist like Ben Shapiro, over people like myself who have not only worked alongside Democrats their entire fucking lives, but still continue to do so, is unbelievable. You have lost your fucking mind. You are engaging in Hasan derangement syndrome. That's what it is. You only arrive at this conclusion if your brain is poisoned by what you see online. I think some of these people are unbelievably unsalvageable. They've lost their dang minds so much. They've received an unlimited amount of like Hasan Piker is the most evil person on the planet style of commentary. And therefore, it's impossible for them to think clearly on this issue. They're just meat riding into oblivion, not realizing that that they don't have any fucking coalition in the liberal side. Does this mean that they owe you $1 million? Yeah. No, I told you. I bet $1 million he's free Palestine. He's not. I don't think these guys understand that. I don't think these guys understand where the actual population is. I don't think they understand where the resentments are for the independents. They think that if they present someone like myself in the worst light, that liberals will hate me and therefore hate the things I stand for, like Medicare for all, being anti-Israel, free college, like Bernie-style left populism. That's not going to happen. You might get a couple of them. You might convince a couple of them that I'm a bad person, but their attitude is not going to change. That's why Graham Plattner is fucking popping off in Maine right now, because Graham Plattner embodies all of those qualities, right? Graham Plattner is a candidate that is doing all that. Abdul El-Sayed is a candidate that is doing all that. And that's part of the reason why this kind of smear campaign, where I'm associated with people like Abdul El-Sayed, is not actually hurting the chances of these candidates. It's actually improving their standing. Because even with all of the negative pushback, even with all of the smears, it doesn't matter. People still go, hey, a lot of these people are yelling at this person because they're fucking... a lot of these people are yelling at this person because, you know, he's anti-Israel. I'm anti-Israel too. I've heard this kind of attack over and over again. I'm going to vote for the guy who's anti-Israel, who's like sincere on this issue. No, it's a personal issue with you. They don't have even 1% of the smoke for Zoran. It's an obsession. They're mad you were successful instead of their favorite streamer. Yeah, I mean, not all of these people are operating with the same fucking perspectives. But it's just crazy that these guys are like, these guys spent the past 2 months talking about how I'm fomenting hatred and fomenting instability and demanding violence. And then someone actually does, someone actually ends up doing the violence. They go, oh, see, we told you this is Hasan's fault, alongside the rest of the fucking Republican media infrastructure. Do you think the smear campaign is successful? Fuck no. Do you think it's successful? You have to remember. Yeah, I promise you, these pro-Israel people that are attacking you are going to save your image from those that have been tricked and fooled by that group, because no one is more vile than pro-Israel ghouls. Exactly. You think it's bad that fucking Fox News is making me the poster boy of like the American left, saying I'm a dangerous person? No, of course not. Of course not. There's tremendous negative polarization against Fox News when they fucking constantly posterize me every single day of the week. You think liberals that see that are going to be like, well, I agree with Fox News? No, of course not. Most liberals are not that insane. The ones that actually see the Fox News coverage and go, see, even Fox News is agreeing with me and presenting it as a positive, are people who are brain broken, who think that like that liberals will see the Fox News coverage and go, wow, I guess I agree with Fox News. It's not going to work that. It doesn't work that way. It does the opposite. You incite violence, are calling the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooter based. Yeah, because they realize it's one of their guys. That's it. If the White House Correspondents' Dinner was a HasanAbi head, they would have been running around talking about how dangerous and how violent of a figure I am in American politics, because the people that do this don't have any real politics. Their politics just revolves around the personal envy and angst and animosity of their favorite sex pest cult operating streamer, Destiny. Many of these guys are just orbiters of Destiny, even after it came out in a fucking civil court case that he was procuring child sexual abuse material. Okay? These guys have not given up. A guy who can't even take care of his own son, whose own son came out as a fucking neo-Nazi, is supposedly converting young men. Get the fuck out of here. He's not converting them to anything. He's converting them into being his personal cult slaves. This is what 7 years of cyber stalking and cult building around fuck Hasan, nothing can change, does to people. They literally have no solutions or ideas. So as things get worse, they resort to idiotic violence, because in America, that's all people with no organization have. Yes, ironically enough, my dad hates you. I told him you're debating Sean Hannity, and he said, I guess he can't be that bad. See? It's a nihilistic cult. Also, he tried to fight the courts calling him a pedo and was denied by the judge. I haven't even been following up on this. But anyway, what do I always say? Ironically enough, so much of the commentary revolving around my analysis over structural forms of violence and the anger that it creates in response to people experiencing these structural forms of violence is to do what? Is to take that anger and channel it into organizing, channel it into more productive things. And perhaps that's the reason why, because there is a real discernible North Star, a real goal in this movement of making necessary changes in American politics, that people don't engage in adventurism, which I routinely talk about being unbelievably unproductive and bad overall for any sort of serious political movement. I've never been a fan of decentralized forms of violence. And as a matter of fact, that fucking New York Times conversation literally revolved around that. Okay, Alonzo Grimandi, thank God there's like at least some intelligent people out there, college professors and the like, that are aware of my commentary and aware of the things that I say, that he had a decent opinion on this. He says, in a well-oiled democracy, there'd be left-wing mainstream outlets showing you Hasan the Hun in that same podcast saying he does not endorse killing CEOs, or maybe clips from his own stream stating his views clearly. But not in a plutocracy like the U.S. That outlet does not exist. You are witnessing the U.S. political elites disciplining the public, making sure it does not dare get curious about his views or how the structural violence of the system itself, dying over lack of healthcare, is justified as inevitable or even fair, natural, when it shouldn't. Polite society demands you condemn political murder, not social murder. On the contrary, it justifies it as your personal responsibility. People affected pick up on that contradiction, but do not have the tools to express it coherently, so they simply celebrate the murder instead. Understanding this process theoretically and providing that framework for coherent expression is not moral justification. It never has been. And Hasan the Hun has been very clear about this. He has even stated he believes in labor organizing as the most effective pushback, which I brought up in that conversation in the New York Times, but not a single person talked about it, right? That's what's so frustrating about it, because a lot of people at the point of incitement will turn normal systemic critique into something it's not, an endorsement of wanton cruelty, or an endorsement of fucking going out and murking CEOs in the fucking streets. Here's the problem though. A lot of people hear that and see that and might not even necessarily disagree with it. You don't want to live in that world where you are unironically celebrating decentralized acts of violence. I don't want to live in that world. That world is chaotic. I want to live in a world where there's stability, where there's prosperity. My argument. So even if you think you are in the short term, thinking that you're disparaging a prominent critic and a prominent critique of the nation state of Israel or billionaires and the current oligarchy that we exist under, what you end up doing is refuse to create a more productive outlet for a lot of people, where they're just rudderless. They're left rudderless and they experience all the chaos, and there's no way to interpret that chaos through a framework that actually forces them into more productive and more viable solutions to fix that fucking chaos. So then they behave in a chaotic manner. They retaliate in an unbelievably chaotic way. Bum rushing the motherfucking White House Correspondents' Dinner to try to fucking kill the president and members of the cabinet, except for Kash Patel. This is what happens when liberals experience the anger and the frustration and are left rudderless. They're left with no pressure valve. They're left with no vote that could potentially help them feel like they're moving in the direction of a discernible solution. Okay, they vote for regular centrist corpo dems, and then those corpo dems don't actually improve their material circumstances, so they're left more angry than they were before. You asked for this, shooter repost one of your haters. I know. I already covered it. One of my number one haters, the shooter was in agreement with, including on the issue of Israel, ironically enough. So this shooter was a pro-Ukrainian flag, pro-NATO, pro-Israel guy. This shooter was more likely to fucking kill me than the motherfucking president, if we're being real, depending on the level of animosity that he had, considering the communities that he was a part of on the internet. Anyway, this is not a radical viewpoint by a crazy podcaster either. These are pretty well cemented critical views of violence in the state. Marc Neocleus in Britain, Jacques Rancière in France, Joy James in the U.S., among many others, have made this point over and over again. So Hasan the Hun has clearly read them and done his homework. It's easy to pick up on his words if you know the literature. CNN, Fox News, and mainstream punditry either have not or have, but don't want people accessing these views. No, they don't. They don't do any fucking. Their worldview is unbelievably nearsighted. Their worldview is hermetically sealed in the neat little confines of neoliberalism. There is no world where they reach beyond that analysis. Back in the day, I think right wingers used to do that. Okay, they used to. I'm glad you were making a solid connection to the cyber stalkers who prepped all these hate clips over 7 years in hopes they'd reach mainstream media. Yeah, and now that it has, what has that done? Nothing. So please, I urge all of the cyber stalkers, it's been a 7-year process. Just give up and work on something more productive, please. I beg of you. I promise you, you will be healthier and happier. Funnily enough, the reason why the right wing has been able to do so well with culture wars is because Bannon read Gramsci and applied counter-hegemonic theory to culture war bullshit. I know. That's it. Bannon is one of the better read Republican demons, ironically enough. It's incredibly frustrating to see people, even people who frankly should know better, fall for the bad faith political operation to make you think this guy's a potential murderer and not someone who's simply translating foundational critical thought to a Gen Z Twitch audience. This guy is a perfect example of a liberal who refuses to see it. He could very easily put out a very quick vid clarifying he doesn't endorse killing CEOs, and right now it'd have no problem getting widely circulated. He probably doesn't endorse killing CEOs either, but it'd be death to the brand he's cultivated to admit that, like some school marm. He says it in the podcast, but no one is curious enough to watch it. Either that, or they're just ignoring it because it doesn't fit the narrative. A lot of these controversies have YouTube vids dedicated to them. A good example is the Rick Scott statements, and yet it's still brought up. Clearly, one of his 10 million dogged defenders should edit the clip down and push it out, like they couldn't, for some reason, do with his endorsement of Harris. I even added the time, 110, where he explains the Rick Scott comments in the first vid you get on his clip channel and type Rick Scott. The problem is people don't care to look, even when we present them with this. Thanks for the timestamping, but this doesn't say the Mangione killing was wrong. I was referring to the mention of him on a video of the Rick Scott and not that stop people, blah, 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 blah. I have to thank you for providing that citation from the very end of a new 35-minute show. You spent time researching that I wasn't willing to, so points to you. But that was an exceptionally weak, reluctant, one-word answer, arguably more on whether he'd do it. See, when he is faced with what he was looking for, from the very same primary source, that same interview where they asked me straight up, would you kill a fucking CEO or do you endorse the killing of CEOs? I say, no. And he still goes, you spoon-fed it to me, but I still think it's weak. It's a goalpost shift, right? This guy isn't just dealing with some of you guys in the chat as well. He's dealing with Alonzo Guarmandi as well. Alonzo Guarmandi literally turns around. Guarmandi says, you mean this video with 146,000 views on YouTube alone, not his biggest audience, that not one media outlet has shared? You guys exist on a parallel reality where it is not on TV or in the YouTube channels of TV shows. It doesn't exist. Do the homework. You need to join the 21st century. He does not need to join the 20th. 20th century media will not show you the information you need to be informed. Ugh, did you have to show me a picture of it instead of linking to it? Yes, because the Nazi saluting owner of the Free Speech Absolutist website, blah, blah, blah. And then he links to it. A 40-minute clip? That's unfair. I've never been able to listen to Hasan Piker for more than 3 minutes at a time, even if I was only watching for the sake of his dog. If this is a big deal for him, he'd cut it down to 90 secs. No fair. Now that you linked it to me, well, it's too long. I don't wanna. I mean, he's not being lazy, by the way. That person is not being lazy. That person is being contentious. That person's goal is not to arrive at a productive conclusion here. That person's goal is not to arrive at the truth. That person's goal is to simply keep annoying people and win some sort of Pyrrhic victory in the process. Schrodinger's Presence, thank you for the 25 Tier 1 gifted subs. Yes, he is obtuse by design. This is what a lot of people do. Yeah, he's a Sex Destiny fan. Of course he is. He doesn't have, the thing about Destiny is he doesn't really have a large audience anymore, but he does have a very loyal cult. And many of his loyal cult are like in, neoliberal groups and things like that. So they get a lot more motion. Not him, but at least his fans can brigade shit. They're always online and they create like an outsized influence that they do not actually have, right? What is this? Yeah. Oh, here it is. Yeah. He's just like constantly. It's controversial to say how much violence at large protests just outside of a border makes it too bad. Extremists of any sort can only view tragedies as opportunities. Yeah. He's a fucking fan of Destiny. It's just crazy because, like, for an audience that claims to care about arriving at the truth through testing their ideologies in the marketplace of ideas, right? It's unbelievable when they're faced with like information that corrects the record. They go, nope. This professor of resistance history gives such a profound analysis.
Night, within just minutes after shots rang out at the White House Correspondents Association dinner where Trump was in attendance, Democrats were already posting that what had happened was an act of political violence that everyone must condemn. Even before anyone knew the name of the alleged shooter, Democrats across the establishment were telling you the same thing that Trump wants you to think about it. It's an act of political violence which has no place in a democracy. Well, that's all fair enough. But before we even know his name, they could tell you what was on his mind? Why be so quick about it? Why choose to immediately classify it as political violence? What work is that doing right now in our politics and political culture? We can start with this. It's not condemning political violence. It's creating a boogeyman they can invoke to set the terms of legitimate resistance. Hey folks, I'm Todd Sturmer. I'm a public historian and the author of A Resistance History of the United States. By the time I stopped counting, I had seen more than 50 posts from across the Democratic establishment. Senators, House members, governors, mayors, the operators around them, the talking heads who do the amplifying, all hitting the same 5 beats in more or less the same order. Express thanks that no one was harmed, salute law enforcement, classify what happened as political violence, condemn political violence, invoke democracy. Check your own feed right now. You're going to find it. The wording shifts a little. The priorities don't. They all got the same push alert. The first 2 beats are pro forma these days, like thoughts and prayers. But the last 3 are different. They're a choice, a particular choice, a coordinated choice, made before anyone could possibly know what had happened, all reaching for the same vocabulary at the same time. What makes the forced consensus so jarring is how wildly disconnected it is from the actual public conversation. While the establishment locked arms around their script, the rest of the country's feed fractured instantly into 2 competing realities. The right immediately seized on the chaos to argue this is exactly why Trump needs his $300 million secure ballroom. Meanwhile, massive segments of our public took one look at the breaking news and immediately asked whether the whole thing was staged. Those competing narratives, a reflexive grift on one side and the deep disbelief on the other, tells you a lot more about the actual state of our democracy than any coordinated social media posts. But here's something worth remembering about presidents getting shot at in this country. The famous lone wolf cases of the last 100 years or so have mostly not been driven by anything you would call a coherent political program. The clearest example happened at exactly the same place. John Hinckley fired 6 rounds at Reagan outside the Washington Hilton in 1981, trying to impress Jodie Foster. The pattern is not necessarily the absence of politics, but maybe the collapse of politics into fixation, pathology, parasocial obsession, and a grandiose belief that one person is the problem and removing them is the answer.
What is that Tylenol emote? It's the Dr. Jihad. It's the Dr. Jihad. The doctor is in session. Dr. Jihad has prescribed you to eat the Tylenol. The Tylenol that is a solution to all of your anxieties.
Wolves. There's a studied psychology to it. Individuals do not reach for it unless they've decided every other channel is closed to them. Not actually closed, but closed in their heads. They've reduced their world to a single face. Remove the face, fix the world. Nobody else is going to do it, so I will. But as far as resistance history is concerned, it's also the worst possible form of anything you would want to call political violence. And it's not what political violence means inside any serious resistance. Lone wolf violence isn't resistance. It's what someone does after he has stopped believing in resistance and collective.
Yes. I mean, he is addressing adventurism. This is what you do when there's no more outlet, when you have no more belief way to deal with the issues that you're facing.
Action. Real resistance understands that abuse of authority is structural, that removing one functionary produces a replacement functionary, that what has to be intervened in is the apparatus itself. It's in the Declaration of Independence, the right of the people to alter or abolish destructive governments, not alter or abolish people, alter or abolish the structure. Direct action is intervention in the abuse, not violence as an outcome. It's making the mechanics of abuse costly, slow, and impossible for the people running it. Escalation is a calculated tool used only when every permitted channel has been foreclosed. Isolated violence is not how serious resistance movements build the capacity to act at scale, to push back abuse operating at scale, like across a nation. Because it's a strategic disaster. It often triggers crackdown that damage the very movement trying to change the structure. Resistance organizers have learned this from history, particularly on the left, and they've learned it expensively. So when Democrats across the establishment reach for political violence within minutes of an event they cannot possibly have understood yet, they're accomplishing two things. First, they're inflating a lone act into a strategic threat that almost certainly was not its origin. But the bigger point for resistance is the second one. They're flattening the entire spectrum of opposition. By characterizing an armed charge at a hotel checkpoint as political violence, the Democratic establishment creates a massive rhetorical umbrella. But once that umbrella is open, it becomes remarkably easy to sweep any unsanctioned, disruptive political action underneath it. Anything they don't filter and organize and promote as their own. They intentionally conflate the image of chaotic desperation of a lone gunman with the organized, strategic escalation of actual resistance movements, the kind of patient structural work that has historically changed conditions in this country. So the intended effect is to preemptively discredit all opposition that isn't theirs. They are the legitimate opposition. They are the defenders of democracy. Anyone else, by definition, isn't. They get to call those shots, and only them. Whatever anyone else is doing to oppose Trump and MAGA.
Taserface, I didn't hear you condemn murder today. See next message. I'm unsubbing, and my last message is why. As always, 10 Am Israel Chais, Am Israel Chai, 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 Am Israel Chai. I condemn murder and theft. I condemn murder and theft. Condemn. Okay. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, you guys can still feel confident in coming to the broadcast and listening to what I have to say, of course. Small update. Boyer deleted the quote retweeted post and replaced it with the one below. In a phone call, he said he deleted it to axe the name calling and took away from the seriousness of the issue. And I never want to do personal attacks, but I stand by what I think. Building Trades president in Philadelphia deletes his post calling Alla Stanford APAC Alla. He says he stands by it, but didn't want to be mean with the name calling. That's funny as fuck. Bialua Jr., thank you for the 30 gifted subs. Israel just dropped a fake HasanAbi of Israel. Please watch the latest Surrounded. I'm very curious about your opinion. Is it Hen Mazik? Are we forgetting how right-wingers talk?
This is stupid.
I feel like this is massive hallucination going on. It's fucking driving me insane.
Hey, bitch. What is this? Read it.
Yeah, no, this is how right-wingers talk. And they talk like this. They used to talk like this privately. Now they talk like this publicly, right? And it's unbelievably violent. The violent rhetoric is coming from the left stuff is totally ridiculous. It was Rudy Rockman. Okay.
Thing under the exact same label, condemned in advance by people who have no interest in distinguishing them. Trump might call it the radical left's political violence, but establishment Democrats don't necessarily disagree with that because that's not them. They're not the radical left. So if all escalation not related to their election in November is immediately branded as synonymous with unhinged gun violence, legitimate resistance is treasonous even before it begins. It traps the non-establishment opposition in a perpetual defensive crouch. They're forced to spend their time joining in with the condemnations.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And I said this about Hamas too, if you recall. And I suspect he has a similar attitude on that as well. I mean, he's literally a professor of anti-colonial resistance. So I'm sure I can't even talk. I'm sure he agrees with me 100% on this. But what did I always used to say? Democrats that consistently go, oh, I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas. This person is not with us. This person might be pro-Hamas. When Republicans were cynically trying to disparage the pro-Palestinian movement by going, well, they're all anti-Semitic. They're all anti-Semitic. They're all pro-Hamas. Democrats would go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We're not pro-Hamas, I promise. When Democrats did that, they did not realize that they were actually creating an opening for the Republicans to fucking use and abuse. Okay? Doors open. Sorry. I'm fucking opening doors all the way from... I'm opening doors in Los Angeles, California, all the way from New York City. Democrats were taking ownership over cynical framing that their opposition was handing to them. They were just going, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. You're right. We are anti-Semitic, and I apologize for being anti-Semitic." You're a fucking weakling when you do that. There is never any reason for you to listen to what the Republicans on any issue whatsoever. Do you oppose them or do you not oppose them? That's the real question here. And unfortunately, the answer, especially on the issue of, what is this? You should tell Professor Sachs about this, by the way.